Welcome to another episode of The Writer's Dream, where authors are able to talk about how they write their books, how they publish their books, and how they market their books. If you are a reader or a writer, you will be very interested in the various kinds of things that we do on this show and talk about. We introduce some very good books from some local authors, Long Island authors. You would not believe how many authors there are on Long Island, and illustrators. And we also the authors and myself provide some advice for those of you who are aspiring to write. You can find us here at ltveh.org. Just go on the website, look for video on demand, look for my show, The Writer's Dream, and you will see past shows and of course this show eventually. We are also on YouTube. You have to search my name, which is Linda Maria Frank. I am the author of Annie Tillery Mysteries. Click on my picture and about 150, it's more than that now, but maybe 160 interviews will come up, and I'm sure you'll find something that interests you, all genre, all fiction, nonfiction, many, many different kinds of books. We are also on Facebook. We have a Facebook page called, guess what, The Writer's Dream. And if you want to be on the show or you have a question, please reach out to me on that Facebook page. That was a lot. Okay, so today's guest is Marianne Savage. She is my delightful illustrator. I found her through another author, and she's been illustrating my books and doing the internal stuff and some artwork for my marketing for some time, and she has burst upon the scene as an author now. Her two newly released books are Songbirds,
Friendship Scale,
and Bubble Trouble.
Yes.
Okay, so how'd you become an illustrator?
Gosh, I think I was born with a paintbrush in hand because I've always wanted to.
Must have been tough on your mother.
Yes. It's just always something that I always wanted to be. I have an old report that I saved from when I was in 6th grade, and it was about how I wanted to be a cartoonist when I grew up. So it was just something that it's always been something that I wanted to do. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so when was the first time that you were actually able to do something that was recognized or that you got paid for? Or
I would say I'm kind of a late bloomer. Of course, I did stuff in school, high school, things like that, but I didn't really pursue it at that time. I got married, I had children, so that was more of where I was at that point in my life. And it wasn't until the mutual friend that we have, I had done a mural project in my church in Bohemia, and it was something that the mutual friend had seen. And so she had introduced me to you, and that's how we started, and you were actually one of my first professional, real
right, and
books.
all of my book covers are back here on this banner that I take with me to fairs and book events and whatnot, and you've done my logo, Annie Tillery Mysteries, all my book covers, and the illustrations inside. This is one of the illustrations we like best, right? Because this is how we picture Annie Tillery.
Yes.
And then you went on to do a project for this mutual friend, as I remember, correct?
Yes, I did, and she had self-published, and it was a spiritual book, more for it was in rhyme, but it was more adult. It wasn't for children.
No,
it
was The Passion of Christ,
Passion
as I
of Christ,
remember
yes.
it.
Yeah,
and the illustrations were just beautiful.
Thank you.
Very, I felt really captured the story of the Passion of Christ. And then from there?
From there, after the mural was done where I worked at, I ended up leaving that job because I had taken a job out at a farm out east that
Harbies, right?
Harbs, yes. And they had all of their wood signs. If anybody has been to them, you've seen some of my work. That that I just answered a Craigslist ad. I saw that they were looking for a muralist. It was a short, what do you call it, a commitment. And I thought it would be fun to try it out. So I sent in, and they called me right away. And so I worked for them. Actually, it ended up 2 seasons that I worked Monday through Thursday at my day job, and then Friday through Sunday I worked out at the farm. So it was busy time, but I loved being outdoors and doing what I did out there.
Yeah.
So then that turned into a full-time job out there, and I was starting to have some health issues that were being
Exasperated.
Thank you. Yes.
Exacerbated.
That were, so I ended up having to leave the farm job because of that. It was just, it was too much with the driving and the commute and the being out in the sun all day and everything. So for a while I didn't work. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And way back when my children were little was when I first wrote The Bubble Trouble. At the time it was called Too Many Bubbles, Billy. But I thought that was too much to put onto a title. So I got it out and I started looking at it. And I had sent it out the traditional way back when with sending it out to the bigger named publishers and stuff. And rejection letters kept coming back. So then I got put on the shelf for a while, 20-some years while. And I ended up pulling it out again and looking at it. I was like, I've seen the books that our mutual friend worked on. And I think it had some merit, so I wanted to take it out and look at it, well, like, why would they have rejected it? I wanted to be more constructive at what I was writing. And I definitely see why they didn't take it. So I made quite a few changes, and then I said, oh, let me just try it. With working with you and also her, I had learned about
self-publishing.
Yeah, self-publishing, because at one time it was very hard to self-publish with a lot of money investment, and you had to buy a certain amount of stock of the books and everything. And I didn't want to do that yet.
It was a big monetary investment because when I first self-published, now this is 10 years ago, there were companies, but every one of them, and they still do, they charge you and they have packages and whatnot, and you buy the books at a discount. But it was nothing like CreateSpace, which has now become Kindle Direct Publishing.
Right.
And actually, your help to me in publishing my last 2 books, which are really a takeoff on my first 2 books, or my first and third, really helped me as well. And I also helped another author to publish on CreateSpace, and it's a great learning experience.
Right.
I suggest to anybody who's writing a book to look into it, not necessarily not to seek out a traditional publisher, but look at what goes into self-publishing.
Right.
It's very interesting.
Right.
And you learn about, ISBN numbers and copyrights and the things that you really need to know about, because in my own mind, I think, well, one day I'm going to write a book and I'm going to, send it out to the traditional publishers and see what they have to say and whatnot. And then somebody will say, yes, we'll publish your book. And then you'll go and you'll have to sign a contract. And you need to know about all of these things. You actually need a lawyer to sign that contract. And what I have found out doing this show from all of these guests that I have, because I've had every form of publishing imaginable on this show, is that you lose control of your book.
Right.
When you self-publish, you have complete control of whatever you're going to do. I mean, you may be discovered, somebody might want to make a movie out of your book or a cartoon, and you have control over it. So I strongly suggest looking into it, and certainly now you're an expert at it. Because not only are you doing, my book is just text and a few illustrations, but your books are written in the form that children's books have to be written, and that's something that you're finding out about, right?
Yes.
You joined Long Island Children's Writers and Illustrators, and I don't know if you want to read something from
Sure. This book, Songbird Friendship Scale, is a book about bullying in a way, It's not so much focusing on the bullying as the person's response to the bullying.
Erosion of self-esteem.
Yes, yes. And I sing in a chorus, so it was, to me, I thought it was a fun way to approach it with music. I'm trying to think what would be a good thing to, I guess the main story is that the songbird sings like very beautifully than any other bird that was singing. And as she gets a little older, the parents' birds take her out to another part of the forest so that more people could hear her, because they realized that she had this gift. And because she is getting the attention that the other birds aren't getting, there's a negative reaction. So they're teasing her, they're taunting her, they're making fun of the way she sings and everything. So she decides to just, that's it, I'm done, I'm gonna go and hide. And I'm trying to think of which would be a good example to read. The teasing kept on. For days they would laugh, transforming her sweet, happy song. She tried hard to stay bright on the outside, but inside felt something was wrong. And before too long, her sound took a turn from all the taunting she endured. No longer hopeful, her melody changed. A much sadder sound was now heard. Warbling bravely, though it was quite clear, songbirds seemed to be holding back. Mama longed to hear the happier sounds that her baby's new songs seemed to lack. So she goes through this little journey of her own, that the mom is trying to get her out. Dad's trying to say, come on, let's it's okay. They're bullying you, but it's okay, But it isn't until she's ready to not let their words live in her head. And that's
the message of the book.
Yes.
Don't let those negative messages live in your head.
And then she uses her gift in a different way that makes peace and harmony because of the music. So it makes her life a lot more harmonious. By using her.
This book in particular is really based on something else that you do.
Yes, I sing with a chorus. We're a chapter of Sweet Adelines International. I've been with them for 7 years now, or 8. I lost track of it. We do barbershop style singing, which was something that I grew up with. I had uncles that sang. One of my uncles is actually in the Hall of Fame of the Barbershop Harmony Society. He was very good and just went very far with it. And he was always my inspiration for...
This is like an Ancestry commercial.
Yes. He was my inspiration, yes.
So you're a singer, and...
Yes. And so the music, there was some connection with the story and something that had happened during the chorus time that I was able to have this story come out.
Well, I think, people see the end result of somebody's endeavor, like writing a book or making a movie or singing in a chorus, but they don't see, for the most part, they're not aware of all of the stuff that goes on in the process of doing this. And of course, human nature comes in, and there's always jealousy and people who vie for control, et cetera, et cetera. Right. And actually, these are very important messages for children.
Right.
Because they're going to come across these messages. And in today's society with social media and whatnot, they can be hurt in so many different ways. So it's good to be able to expose your children to books that talk about self-esteem, a strong center.
Right.
And I think that's what Songbirds does. So also, this illustration, tell us a story about that illustration, because this is not a book you wrote. But
this is not a book I wrote. Again, I met someone through Craigslist that was looking for an illustrator, and she had this great little story about this dragon. I won't tell the whole story about it, but he makes friends with unlikely friends that a dragon would have. And
like a fairy.
The fairy, yes, she's one of them. And then there's a human that he's also friends with. And in his village that he lives in, or his clan, whatever, they don't talk to fairies or humans. So this picture in particular is he found out that his father is gone.
Oh.
And so the little fairy friend is wiping his tears from his
sweet.
snout. So this one's, I happen to love drawing non-humans with human emotion.
Mm-hmm.
I like doing that, and I get myself into the drawing. And I've had feedback of people saying that, you know, like they feel something when they look at it, and that's what I'm trying to do, stir up some emotion in there.
Well, I think particularly when you're writing for children, children have an affinity for animals for the most part, and it's a great way to tell the story.
Yeah.
I know you sent the manuscript to me
Mm-hmm.
on this book and asked if I knew somebody who could read, a child.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a grandchild who's now 11, at that time must have been 7 or 8. He loved it. He just loved it.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it was a great way to get the book out there. Have you heard from her whether she's
It's
published?
it's a work in progress. We have had some, both of us, it seems like every time we get together to work on it, someone in our family has passed away.
Hey.
So it's, I'm kind of like, don't want to call her, but, because we've had quite a few back and forth. And, but yes, it's one of the things that I do want to follow up on because I think it's a wonderful book. And personally, I love the illustrations. And my favorite is
Yeah.
my dragon back there.
The
Yeah,
dragon
with
and
the
the
full
moon.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what's the story behind the dragon and the moon?
Again, it's he's not sure where his father is. His father went out to war, and he doesn't know his fate or anything, and he's missing his father. And so he goes out to a clearing, and the full moon is there, and he just has this connection.
Yeah, that's a beautiful illustration.
Thank you.
As are all of yours.
Thank you.
So you also have a full-time job,
Yes.
and it's art-related.
Yes.
So why don't you tell us about that?
Okay, I work for a company that that produces needle craft kits. So we do plastic canvas, countered cross stitch, embroidery, anything like that. So I'm an in-house artist, so I do design a lot of the smaller pieces. And so it's what I do is I pretty much draw most of the day. And then when I'm not drawing, we're creating patterns or creating a sample from nothing of what the piece is going to look
Well,
like.
where the colors go into those little holes.
That's
Because I
what
do those things.
Yes, you've got to pick each little pixel.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And picking, we do also take outside artist work. And when we're doing the larger pieces, it's a matter of almost painting it over again. But of course, an artist, when they're painting, you can mix any shade of anything. But we're working with a palette of maybe 30 colors. And to try to recreate the artwork so that it looks the same as the artwork into a needlecraft, it's a skill.
Well, I know I've done pieces where you've had to take 3 or 4 different colors and use them in the same,
Yes,
cross stitch to make the
Like
colors.
blending the colors.
And it
Yeah.
really creates a beautiful piece. I enjoy doing those, so that you must have a lot of fun with that.
I do.
Yeah.
It's every day is a different day. It's not. I've done the working at the farm was fun. I loved working at the office. I was very organized, everything. But this job is so low pressure for me, and it's allowing me to reconnect. Because for a while I had fallen out of being able to create every day. So every day I'm drawing. I'm being reminded and being challenged, and yes.
So what was the transition like from going to be painting and into writing?
I would say it was easy for me, and I don't know why, but once I had the idea, the book almost wrote itself. Especially the Songbird one. That one came very easy because I knew what I wanted to say. And I would be at work and a couple of lines would come to me and I'd have to email it to myself so that when I got home I could work on it. So it's
Do you think it's because you work with music and the words in the music, the words in the songs that you that you sing are in rhyme to begin with?
It could be. It could be. I know one of my, of course, first reading experiences, along with probably half of the population, was Dr. Seuss. And I loved Go Dog Go. That was one of my favorite books. And the other one was Sam the Firefly. And that was my favorite because of the drawings. And that was when I made my first connection of drawing, pencil drawings. I don't know if you remember that one. It's with the owl and the firefly. And okay, and it's all done in pencil sketches, and the only color that's in the book are the owl's eyes are yellow, and the firefly's light is yellow. Everything else is pencil drawings.
No.
And it's just, I remember as a kid, like making
You have
that
to remember
connection.
that I was, dinosaurs roamed Long Island when I was a child, so you know, you're really reaching into something.
I just remember making that connection, though. I was like, oh, somebody drew this. As little as I was, it was something that just stuck with me.
Have you ever considered, do you know about Caras Publishing, C-A-R-A-S?
No.
They produce all of those magazines like Ladybug and Cricket.
Oh, okay.
You've heard of all of those? And they have beautiful artwork in there.
Yeah.
I would approach them with some of your stuff and see where you go with that, because you've just like moved into this, so we want places
it's all
to
new, yeah.
to at
Uncharted
least submit. What
territories.
can they do? Say no?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
where are you? Exactly where you started out.
Right.
So I wouldn't worry about that. And you've produced ebooks as well?
The ebooks were part of the program through Kindle Direct
Yes,
Publishing.
that's right.
So once
I should
you
know that.
have, because as far as the book design and the covers and everything, I did all that myself because I do know how to work with publisher and illustrator. So I was able to send, all I had to do was write it and draw it. And then I put it together, and then they do the rest of the work, which is fabulous for me. I'm not very organized. I am not a mathematician. So keeping track of money and orders, it's like, you know, just
Yeah, they're
over
very
my
good
head.
that way.
Yeah.
They're very good. So what was the most challenging part of this writer's journey?
I think, oh gosh, I would say probably because that rejection letter from way back when always was hanging over me.
Listen
so I
to
think
the songbird. You know, all
that's
those
exactly
negative things.
exactly. So I think that it was that change of mindset that I think I have something here. I'm not sure, but I'm going to try it again. And that was probably the hardest, because I didn't tell anybody. Nobody in my family knew that I was doing this, and they knew that I wrote it way back when, but they didn't know that I was trying to do this over again. And I waited until I had it done, and where I felt it was done, and then I sent it out to to my kids and everybody, and that was when I started getting the feedback. And of course, your friends are not going to, your family's not going to say, "Oh, that's terrible." They're going to be
Well,
encouraging.
some of them will.
Yeah. Yeah.
Depends on your family. I know.
So that was one thing that I was like, okay, well, I got great feedback, but then one of your books had won the Royal Dragonfly Award, which I got mentioned in that because I was the illustrator for it.
Yeah.
I had never heard of the Royal Dragonfly. So I went and I looked, and I realized they have a purple dragonfly for children's books. So I found out that I was within the time frame of still being able to enter, so I entered both books because I figured now I'll know. I'm just going to send it out there and hope that something. Either they'll tell me it's terrible or they'll, whatever. Bubble Trouble received an honorable mention for humor. And the Songbirds Friendship Scale, I got second place, tied, for illustrations and for the social issue that it was, the category that it was put into.
So there you go.
So that was my confidence. I
Yeah.
needed that. I needed that
Yeah.
to say, okay, it's not just people being nice to me and saying, you can do this.
Yeah, it's that one thing, because I know when I published Madonna Ghost 10 years ago, a friend of mine let me know that a young lady, she was a senior in Locust Valley High School, was running a fundraiser, and she had a few authors who were there to talk about their books and sell their books. And she said, why don't you go? I had just had a knee operation. And I went, and I sold 14 books,
Wow.
or 15, or
Wow.
something like that. And I said, holy cow. And of course, I thought every event was going to be like that, which they are not. But this was the exposure you need. Look,
Right.
people actually like your books and will read them.
Right.
So, yeah, you have to get over that little hurdle.
Yeah.
And winning a prize is really a great way to do that.
And that's what actually gave me the confidence to look into and join the LICWI, the Long Island Children's Writers and Illustrators Club, or group.
Yeah, because one of their major things is they'll take your book and they'll critique it, but they also have some meetings where they bring in agents and publicists, which is, I mean, that's a great thing for authors, especially new authors, just to see how that all works.
Just to see how it works, yes, and to network and stuff.
Yeah. So we have about a minute left, and I'd just like to ask you anything in the future.
I do have, again, when I'm at work or wherever and I get an idea, I'll put it either in a text message to myself or whatever. So I have quite a few of them started. Again, just I'm open to anything, but I do have a few books.
Any
that I do
one
wanna do
particular
myself.
idea you want to talk about?
I do have one that I'm working on. It deals with death, and not so much the death part, but the coping with.
Yeah,
Yes.
loss.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's something I think very important for children and for adults.
Yes.
I think there are a lot of adults who learn a lot of things from children's books
Yes.
because the lessons are not couched in so much verbiage. They're simple and straightforward, and you remember them. So I look forward to seeing that book, and I look forward to seeing you at LICWI and at the book events.
Yes.
And it's great. My illustrator has become an author. Thank you,
Great,
Marianne,
thanks.
for coming.